Melanie Hargrove, a beloved teacher in a close-knit town, locked her classroom one stormy October night. By morning, she was gone. No calls, no messages, not even a trace left behind. Her car, found on a deserted road, only deepened the mystery. How does a woman disappear so completely, with no one noticing? What truly happened on that dark, rain-soaked night? The answers have remained hidden, until now. Melanie Hargrove, 32 years old, was more than just a high school teacher in this small Midwestern town. She was a pillar of the community, someone who dedicated her life to helping others. Known for her warmth and willingness to go the extra mile, she often stayed late at school, offering extra tutoring or organizing events for students who needed it. She was the kind of person who attended school plays, showed up at fundraisers, and even coached the debate team when no one else could. She wasn't just a teacher, she was part of the town's fabric. But on October 12, 2017, everything changed. It was a rainy Thursday evening. Melanie had stayed late to finish grading some papers and was last seen leaving the school around 8 p.m. The security camera captured her walking to her car with an umbrella, but the footage stopped as she drove out of the parking lot. It was just another routine evening for Melanie, until it wasn't. When she didn't show up to work the next morning, colleagues grew concerned. Melanie was known for being punctual. Calls to her phone went unanswered. Friends tried to reach her at home, but there was no response. By mid-morning, her sister filed a missing persons report, and local police were notified. This was the start of a search that would grow larger by the hour. 2 days later, her car was found abandoned on a desolate road nearly 15 miles from town. It was locked, with Melanie's purse and phone still inside. There were no signs of struggle, no notes, no footprints leading away from the vehicle. It was as if she had simply disappeared into thin air. News of her disappearance quickly spread, first locally and then nationally. The unusual circumstances, no leads, no suspects, and no clear evidence made this case a baffling one. Reporters flocked to the small town, trying to uncover any clue about what might have happened. But answers were few, and the trail was cold. The question remained, how could a dedicated teacher, known by everyone, vanish without a trace? Was it an abduction? An accident? Or was there something about Melanie's life that no one knew about? As days turned into weeks, the mystery only deepened, drawing in people from all over the country, each hoping for a breakthrough that never came. As investigators scrambled to piece together Melanie's final movements, they faced more questions than answers. Her car, found 2 days after her disappearance, was parked on a lonely stretch of road, a place she had no known connection to. The discovery was unnerving. The car was locked, and the keys were found inside. Melanie's purse, phone, and a half-empty water bottle were on the passenger seat. It looked like she had left in a hurry, but there was no sign of struggle. The police were left puzzled. If she left willingly, why was the car locked from the inside? And if someone forced her out, how had they managed to leave no trace? Detectives combed through the car, searching for anything that might provide a lead. Fingerprints were taken, the vehicle was dusted, and tire tracks around the area were examined. Yet nothing stood out, no strange prints, no unusual DNA, no foreign objects. Even the phone, which investigators hoped would reveal a hint of her last contacts or messages, yielded no new information. The last call she made was to a friend, confirming plans for the weekend, nothing that indicated any distress. The road where her car was found was equally strange. It was a remote area rarely traveled, known mostly to locals as an old service road leading to a long abandoned farm. It was not a route Melanie would have taken to get home. Why was she there? Did she drive there willingly, or was she forced? Did someone else know about this place, someone who planned every move in advance? Each possibility only added to the confusion. The investigation soon expanded beyond the immediate area. Search teams with dogs were brought in, drones scanned the nearby fields, and even a local lake was dragged for possible clues. But despite the massive efforts, there was still no sign of Melanie. Interviews were conducted with her family, friends, colleagues, and even former students, all of whom were left in shock. She wouldn't have just left like that, her sister insisted in an interview. She was always so careful, always aware of her surroundings. Then, there was a tip from a truck driver who claimed to have seen a woman matching Melanie's description walking along the road where her car was found. But the sighting was vague, and there was no way to confirm it. Investigators began to wonder if the case had taken an even darker turn. Yet the most baffling detail was still to come. during a re-examination of Melanie's belongings found in the car. A small notebook in her purse caught an investigator's eye. It seemed ordinary at first, filled with notes about lesson plans and to-do lists. But tucked inside the back cover was a single word, written in red ink: help. Was this a message left by Melanie in desperation, or was it a misdirection by someone else? Did she sense danger, or was this a last-minute plea? But what truly happened in those crucial 48 hours? Little did investigators know, a chilling clue was hiding in plain sight, one that had been overlooked from the very beginning. To understand what might have happened to Melanie Hargrove, we first need to understand who she was. Born and raised in the same small Midwestern town, Melanie was known for her strong sense of community and compassion. Her friends describe her as someone who had a deep love for teaching, a passion that went beyond just academics. She truly cared about each student, one of her colleagues recalls. She would spend hours after class, not just to help with homework, but to listen, to guide. She was more than just a teacher, she was a mentor and a friend. Melanie wasn't married, but she had been in a serious relationship that ended abruptly a year before her disappearance. Her ex-husband, Tom Peterson, was someone Melanie had met during her early teaching years. They got married quickly, but the relationship grew tense over time. Close friends describe it as complicated, with Tom often accused of being controlling. When they finally divorced, Melanie seemed relieved, focusing all her energy back into teaching. But according to some sources, Tom wasn't ready to let go. Was he still bitter about their split? He had an alibi for the night she vanished, but questions remain. Did he know more than he let on? Was he still trying to control her, even from afar? Melanie's professional life was equally complex. While she had many supporters, there were also tensions at work. One of her colleagues, Karen Daniels, seemed to have issues with Melanie's popularity among students. According to staff members, Karen had once remarked that Melanie was trying too hard to be everyone's favorite. Was it simply professional rivalry, or was there more to it? Karen had been questioned by police, but she claimed she had no personal involvement with Melanie outside of work. Was she just a jealous co-worker, or could she have known something critical about Melanie's disappearance? But the most surprising part of Melanie's story involves one of her former students, a young man named Daniel Murphy. Daniel had graduated 2 years before Melanie's disappearance, but had maintained regular contact with her, even showing up at the school occasionally. Daniel had a troubled past, and Melanie was one of the few people who had tried to help him. Some saw their connection as a sign of Melanie's empathy, but others found Daniel's presence unsettling. He was known to be overly fixated on her, often speaking about her as if she were his only friend. When questioned, Daniel's statements were erratic. He insisted that Melanie had confided in him about something serious, but he refused to share specifics, saying he promised to keep it secret. His behavior raised more questions than answers. Was he truly concerned, or was he hiding something? Despite these complex relationships, those closest to Melanie insist that she was careful, always aware of her surroundings, and never the kind of person to put herself in dangerous situations. She knew how to handle people, her sister says. She could sense when someone wasn't right. But as the investigation unfolded, police couldn't ignore the possibility that someone from Melanie's past, whether an estranged ex-husband, a jealous colleague, or a troubled former student, might have played a role in her disappearance. Each of these potential suspects was questioned, but none provided solid leads. Even Melanie's family admitted that there were sides of her life that they didn't fully understand. Had she confided in someone about a threat? Was there a secret she was keeping that could have led to her sudden disappearance? With every layer of Melanie's life that was uncovered, the mystery only deepened. She was loved by many, but there were also those who might have had hidden motives. Did any of these connections lead to her disappearance? Or was the truth still out there, waiting to be discovered? As the story of Melanie Hargrove unfolded, one thing became clear. The more we learned about her, the less we seemed to truly know. The mystery surrounding Melanie Hargrove's disappearance took on new dimensions as investigators gathered witness statements and reviewed surveillance footage. It was clear that no one had a complete picture of her final hours, but each perspective added a new layer to the story. First, we have the testimony of her co-workers. According to them, Melanie was her usual self on the day of her disappearance. She seemed calm, maybe a bit tired, but nothing unusual, recalls a fellow teacher who saw her just before she left the school building. However, a janitor reported seeing Melanie pause for a moment near her car, as if she were unsure about something. It was odd, he mentioned, like she was hesitating before getting in. Was it just fatigue? Or did she sense something was off? The surveillance footage added another layer of mystery. The video shows Melanie driving away from the school at 8:03 p.m. Everything appeared normal until she took an unexpected turn onto a rural road, a route that was not part of her usual drive home. The footage ends there, as the area lacks more cameras. This unexpected detour has led to multiple theories. Did she take a wrong turn? Was she trying to meet someone? Or was she forced off her usual route? Then there's the sighting reported by a local farmer, who claimed to have seen a car similar to Melanie's, parked along the side of the road around 9 p.m. I saw a woman standing next to it, talking to someone in another vehicle, he stated. But by the time he returned, both cars were gone. Police found the farmer's account credible, but without further evidence, it remained unverified. Was this woman Melanie? And if so, who was she speaking to? Conflicting timelines further complicated the case. Some of Melanie's friends stated she had planned to attend a small gathering that evening, but she never showed up. Her last text message was sent around 7:45 p.m., telling a friend she would be leaving school soon. Another message, however, was received on her phone at 8:15 p.m., a message that simply read, "Be careful." It was never traced to a specific sender, and its meaning remains unclear. Police reports revealed that Melanie's phone was still active until 9:30, before suddenly losing signal near the remote road where her car was later found. There was no clear indication of whether Melanie was still with the phone at that time or if someone else had taken possession of it. Media coverage brought in a range of perspectives. Some theorists suggested it was a calculated abduction, citing the locked car and the lack of signs of struggle as evidence of premeditation. Others speculated about a sudden act of violence, pointing to the isolated location and the possible presence of another vehicle seen by the farmer. There was even a theory that Melanie might have planned her own disappearance, though those closest to her found this idea hard to believe. She loved her life here, her sister insisted. She would never leave like that, especially not without saying goodbye. Detectives, too, were divided in their assessments. Some leaned toward the possibility of abduction by someone she knew, given the absence of physical evidence in the car and the lack of forced entry. Others believed it might have been a chance encounter that turned into something more dangerous, but there was no consensus, and the lack of solid evidence left even seasoned investigators guessing. Meanwhile, the public was drawn to the case, with online forums buzzing with speculation. Some claimed to have seen Melanie in neighboring towns, while others shared theories about potential suspects. Was it a local person, someone familiar with the area's secluded roads? Or was it a stranger, someone who had planned every move down to the last detail? Each perspective seemed to lead to more questions. Did Melanie have secrets that no one knew about? Or was she an innocent victim caught in a sinister plot? The uncertainty was unnerving, and the case's complexity only grew as more voices added their own interpretations of what might have happened. As the investigation entered its second week, hope for Melanie's safe return began to fade. But just when things seemed stagnant, a shocking development emerged. Melanie's family received a letter, a plain unmarked envelope that arrived at their doorstep exactly 7 days after she vanished. The contents were cryptic and unsettling. The letter contained only a few lines, written in rushed, uneven handwriting. "I am not safe. Do not trust anyone." Was this truly from Melanie, or was it an elaborate attempt to mislead her family and investigators? The letter sent shockwaves through the investigation. Forensic experts analyzed it for fingerprints, paper origin, and possible DNA traces, but found nothing conclusive. The handwriting was similar to Melanie's, but experts could not confirm it definitively. What made it even stranger was that the envelope had no postmark, suggesting it was hand-delivered. By whom? No one knew. But that's not all. Just days after the letter appeared, an eyewitness came forward with a startling claim. A truck driver passing through a remote gas station, nearly 100 miles from Melanie's hometown, reported seeing a woman matching her description. She looked nervous, he said, like she was trying to avoid being seen. The woman, believed to be Melanie, had supposedly asked the clerk for directions before quickly leaving. Surveillance footage from the gas station was blurry, but showed a woman in a hooded jacket, roughly matching Melanie's height and build. Was this really her? And if so, how did she end up so far from home? As detectives pieced together these new details, more questions surfaced. Did Melanie manage to escape her captor, only to be recaptured later? Or was this sighting part of a larger scheme, intended to mislead investigators? Her family was devastated, grappling with the possibility that she might still be alive, but in serious danger. "If she's out there, she's trying to reach us," her sister tearfully stated. "We just need to find her." In another surprising twist, a local resident reported finding a set of footprints near an abandoned barn, not far from where Melanie's car was discovered. The tracks appeared to be those of a woman, and they led from the road to the barn, stopping abruptly. Inside the barn, police found an old blanket, a partially burned candle, and what seemed to be a half-eaten sandwich. Forensics determined that the items were no more than a week old, indicating someone had recently been there. But was it Melanie? The clues were intriguing but incomplete, leaving detectives with more questions than answers. Yet another piece of evidence surfaced when detectives revisited Melanie's phone records. Among the contacts was a number she had called frequently in the weeks before her disappearance, but the number led nowhere. It was unregistered. Investigators wondered, was this someone she trusted, someone she was trying to reach for help, or someone who had lured her into a dangerous situation? As leads trickled in, the case took a darker turn. A former student of Melanie's, who had initially denied any contact with her in the months leading up to her disappearance, suddenly changed his story. He admitted to sending her a series of anonymous notes, claiming they were meant to warn her about potential dangers in town. "I was trying to protect her," he insisted, though he refused to elaborate further. This revelation raised serious questions about his involvement. Was he a concerned friend, or did he know more than he was willing to share? With each new piece of evidence, the story became even more complex. A calculated abduction, a desperate escape, or a series of misdirections, no theory seemed to fully explain the strange events of Melanie's disappearance. The case appeared to have layers that no one could have anticipated, as if each clue was designed to keep investigators guessing. But even as the investigation continued to expand, some details remained hauntingly unclear. Who delivered the mysterious letter to Melanie's family? Why did the woman at the gas station seem so fearful? And what was the true nature of the messages Melanie had received before she disappeared? Despite the mounting evidence, there was still no clear answer to the central question: where is Melanie Hargrove? Each clue seemed to lead to another mystery, and the truth remained elusive. As detectives dug deeper, they could not shake the feeling that they were missing something crucial, something that could finally break the case wide open. As detectives continued to unravel Melanie's disappearance, they began revisiting old clues that seemed insignificant at first, but now took on new meaning. One of these clues came from Melanie's own social media posts, made months before she vanished. Most were ordinary. Pictures with students, updates about school events, and moments spent with her family. But there were a few cryptic messages that stood out, seeming more ominous in hindsight. One post, made in early July, read, "Sometimes you have to be careful about who you trust, even those you think you know well." At the time, her friends dismissed it as a general observation. But now, it seemed to hint at something deeper, perhaps even a hidden threat she faced. Another post, made just a week before her disappearance, was even stranger. It read, "The truth will come out, no matter how hard someone tries to hide it." Was this a reference to a personal conflict, or did Melanie sense danger? Could this be the clue investigators missed? Investigators also re-examined Melanie's recent interactions with her ex-husband, Tom Peterson. According to her sister, the two had a heated argument during a brief encounter at a local coffee shop just a month before she disappeared. Witnesses described seeing Tom visibly upset, while Melanie seemed calm but firm. "He was angry, really angry," a patron recalled. "I remember him saying, 'You're making a big mistake.'" What was this argument about? Was it related to Melanie's personal safety? The timing of this confrontation now seemed too close to her disappearance to ignore. Detectives also discovered a voicemail left by Melanie for one of her closest friends just 2 days before she vanished. In it, Melanie's voice is shaky. "I think something's not right. I can't talk about it over the phone, but I'll explain everything soon." The friend never got to hear that explanation, and this message remained one of the most perplexing parts of the case. Was she referring to a danger she sensed but couldn't fully identify? Did she have suspicions that she hadn't shared with anyone else? There was also the issue of her car route. Some investigators believed Melanie might have driven down the remote road intentionally, knowing something others did not. Her best friend later mentioned an odd conversation they'd had weeks before, where Melanie had remarked, "Sometimes you need to take a different path to find what you're looking for." Could this have been a metaphor, Or was she talking about the literal path she ended up taking the night she disappeared? These subtle hints, scattered across Melanie's life, now felt like breadcrumbs leading toward a hidden truth. Each clue, each message seemed to point to something she knew or feared but hadn't shared openly. Investigators were left wondering, did Melanie leave these hints intentionally, trying to signal something without fully revealing it? Or were these just coincidences, misunderstood in the context of her disappearance? With every re-examination of Melanie's words and actions, the sense of foreboding grew. The case was not only complex but filled with moments that seemed to foreshadow a looming tragedy, one that only made sense after she was gone. But even with all these hints, the central question remained unanswered. What did Melanie truly know? And could these overlooked clues hold the key to solving her disappearance? Months have passed, and the case of Melanie Hargrove remains unsolved. Investigators have followed every lead, re-interviewed every witness, and re-examined each piece of evidence. Yet the questions linger. Did Melanie willingly leave, planning her disappearance down to the last detail? Or was she taken by someone she trusted, someone who knew her well enough to erase their tracks? Could she still be out there, living a new life somewhere far away, too afraid to come back? Or is the truth much darker, with someone close to her hiding the answers? Each clue seemed to offer hope, only to lead to more uncertainty. What about the mysterious letter? Was it really from Melanie, or was it a cruel attempt to mislead her family? And what of the cryptic voicemail left for her friend? Was it a cry for help, or a hint at something more complex that we still don't understand? As the days turn to years, the case has taken on an almost mythic status in her hometown, a story that refuses to be closed. Melanie's family continues to search for answers, holding on to hope that one day, the truth will finally come to light. "We just want closure," her sister says, her voice breaking. "We need to know what really happened." But what if the real answer is still out there, waiting to be discovered in a forgotten clue or a missed detail? Could Melanie's disappearance be part of a larger, more complex puzzle, one that no one has pieced together yet? And as the investigation continues, one question remains hauntingly clear. Where is Melanie Hargrove? Is this the end of Melanie's story, or just the beginning of a mystery that will never be fully solved? Could you have the missing piece to this puzzle? Share your theories in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe for more cases that remain unsolved for now. If you found this case as compelling as we did, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications. We bring you true crime stories and continue to seek answers for those who can't speak for themselves. You won't want to miss the latest updates, theories, and deep dives into cases that still need resolution. The case of Melanie Hargrove remains unsolved. But one thing is certain, this story is far from over. We'll keep searching, uncovering new details, and revisiting this and other cases that deserve closure. Could you be the one to uncover a missing piece? Leave your thoughts, theories, and comments below. Thank you for watching, and remember, every story deserves an ending.